The nature of modern celebrity culture has undergone a radical transformation over the past decade, creating an environment where the concept of a private childhood has completely evaporated for the offspring of the world's most famous individuals. In this contemporary landscape, fame is no longer a byproduct of achievement that is discovered in adulthood. Instead, it is a birthright, an unavoidable atmosphere that surrounds a child from their very first breath. The public watches these individuals grow up in real time, tracking every minor aesthetic shift, every change in behavior, and every digital footprint with an intensity that borders on clinical observation. This continuous, unyielding global gaze creates a unique psychological and cultural paradigm where the boundaries of normal youthful development are constantly pushed, tested, and redefined before an audience of hundreds of millions. It raises profound questions about identity, personal agency, and the sheer velocity at which the new generation of Hollywood royalty is forced to mature under the digital microscope of the 21st century. To fully comprehend the magnitude of the current public fascination and the intense debates circulating across the internet today, one must look back at the monumental cultural architecture of the family empire that sits at the absolute center of this phenomenon. For more than 20 years, the combined forces of reality television dominance, multi-billion-dollar fashion ventures, and boundary-pushing musical genius have dictated global trends in style, music, and digital media culture. The matriarch of this family fundamentally revolutionized the concept of modern branding, proving that a family's daily life could be transformed into the most watched, most profitable narrative in television history. On the other hand, the paternal influence brought an explosive, avant-garde approach to art, design, and audio production, constantly challenging societal norms and inviting immense public controversy. For a child born into the exact epicenter of this unparalleled cultural vortex, creativity, public visibility, and a natural affinity for breaking standard rules are not just external influences. They are the very fabric of their daily upbringing. As we continue to witness these fascinating transformations and analyze the profound ways in which the next generation is navigating this unprecedented level of global exposure, it becomes increasingly vital to examine the mechanisms of modern stardom and the societal reactions they provoke. If you want to remain fully informed on these deep cultural shifts, the evolution of contemporary media, and the hidden dynamics behind the headlines that capture the world's attention, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and ensure that you never miss our comprehensive breakdowns of the entertainment industry's most significant events. The transition from being a passive subject of paparazzi photography to an active creator of one's own media narrative represents a critical turning point for any celebrity child, signaling the moment they choose to seize control of the spotlight and direct its intense glare according to their own personal vision. Regardless of how jarring that vision might be to a traditional and often highly protective public, within this massive, highly influential family ecosystem, no single individual has captured the collective imagination of the public quite like the eldest daughter of this historic Hollywood union. From the moment her unique name was announced to the world, she was instantly elevated to the status of a global cultural icon, with every public appearance dissected by fashion critics, commentators, and fans alike. Yet, as the years have progressed, she has consistently proven that she is entirely unwilling to fit into the conventional mold expected of a traditional celebrity child. Instead of merely blending into the background of her mother's pristine, highly curated lifestyle brand or silently accompanying her father to high-profile industry events, she has increasingly carved out a distinct, fiercely independent artistic identity. This emerging persona is characterized by a bold, often rebellious aesthetic that directly mirrors the avant-garde, uncompromising nature of her heritage, signaling to the world that she is not merely an inheritor of fame, but an active, deliberate participant in the construction of her own public legacy. This brings us directly to the present moment, a time defined by a sudden, highly synchronized digital event that has sent massive shockwaves through the entire pop culture landscape, setting off an intense wave of speculation and debate across multiple platforms. In the middle of the week, an incredibly brief, highly stylized video was uploaded to a massive joint social media account that boasts a following larger than the populations of many countries. The video lasted a mere 7 seconds, yet its impact was instantaneous and profound, capturing the attention of millions within a matter of hours. The visual presentation was heavy, atmospheric, and distinctly gothic, representing a stark and deliberate departure from the bright, polished imagery typically associated with youth-focused content. It showcased a dramatic transformation that immediately polarized the internet, forcing an immediate reevaluation of the boundaries surrounding self-expression, parental guidance, and the incredibly rapid pace at which the children of the ultra-famous are navigating their transition into the complex world of modern teenage identity. The visual content of this brief digital broadcast was engineered to demand immediate attention, challenging the traditional aesthetic expectations of a young teenager navigating the global stage. Appearing on the massive social media platform, 13-year-old North West stood before her 21 million followers completely transformed by a dark, uncompromisingly gothic style. She was captured swaying slowly from side to side, dressed in a heavy structured black dress that featured a highly stylized, frilly white lace collar. The deliberate contrast between the innocence of the traditional collar and the intense darkness of the ensemble immediately established a somber, highly cinematic atmosphere. Her hair, which had been dyed a striking shade of blue, was pulled tightly into elaborate pigtails, with heavy extensions added to create a dramatic sense of length and volume that framed her face with sharp graphic precision. Setting the brief video to eerie, atmospheric music and captioning the post with a single zombie emoji, she leaned in remarkably close to the lens to reveal a series of silver studs arranged beneath one eye and directly across the bridge of her nose, mimicking the exact placement of authentic facial piercings. Before the camera could even stop recording, the young creator raised her hands into the direct line of sight, showcasing an array of heavy, spiked metal bracelets wrapped around her wrists and a set of long, dramatic artificial nails that completed her dark aesthetic. Within hours of its upload, this single 7-second video amassed nearly 1 million likes and triggered an absolute avalanche of frantic commentary, speculation, and media analysis across the global entertainment landscape. The intense visual transformation was so stark and the appearance of the silver facial studs so convincing that major international news organizations immediately mobilized to investigate whether the 13-year-old had actually undergone real cosmetic modification. Outlets like the Daily Mail rushed to contact formal representatives for both the teenager and her mother, Kim Kardashian, desperately seeking a definitive confirmation regarding the authenticity of the facial jewelry. Though their urgent inquiries were met with total silence from the family's highly protective public relations apparatus, the shockwave from this gothic social media presentation had barely begun to settle when the narrative shifted dramatically from the digital realm to the commercial world of the music industry. The very next day, Kim Kardashian took to her massive personal Instagram account, utilizing her unparalleled digital reach of 344 million followers to aggressively launch a promotional campaign for her daughter's rapidly expanding music career. The 45-year-old fashion mogul and founder of Skims uploaded a series of high-profile images to her main feed and her Instagram story, providing a direct, friction-free digital link that explicitly encouraged her global audience to purchase tickets for an upcoming national concert venture. This project, officially titled the Kimokawi Tour, represents a monumental milestone for the young artist, serving as her first-ever headlining concert series since she formally initiated her solo music career earlier this year. The ambitious tour is scheduled to officially kick off on August 5th in Dallas, Texas, before embarking on a rigorous journey across 14 distinct dates throughout the United States, ultimately concluding with a major hometown performance on August 27th in Los Angeles, California. To amplify the announcement and build maximum momentum for the concert series, the promotional posts featured several candid, stylized photographs of North West posing alongside her 21-year-old tour partner, the rising professional rapper Molly Santana. One of the most prominent images captured the two musical artists standing together backstage at a massive, crowded music festival surrounded by the industrial equipment, stage lights, an intense security presence that defines the high-stakes environment of live entertainment. For many observers, the sight of a 13-year-old child fully embedded in the chaotic, adult-dominated backstage culture of a music festival was deeply unsettling. The immediate juxtaposition of Kim Kardashian, leveraging her entire global media empire to legitimize and commercialize her young daughter's career, while simultaneously exposing her to the grueling demands of a professional cross-country tour, instantly transformed the public conversation from a simple discussion about teenage fashion choices into a fierce debate regarding parental responsibility, childhood exploitation, and the structural boundaries of early stardom, this aggressive promotional push landed directly into an already highly volatile public atmosphere, as both Kim Kardashian and her ex-husband, Kanye West, were already facing an intense wave of severe criticism from prominent industry figures regarding their parenting choices. Just days before the tour announcement, a highly controversial video clip emerged from Paris Fashion Week, capturing North West attending the prestigious Vetements Menswear Spring-Summer 2027 show. The footage showed the 13-year-old navigating the high-fashion event entirely surrounded by crowds of adult industry professionals, completely disconnected from any visible parental supervision or protective family presence. In the video, a grown man approached the young teenager, creating a highly visible moment of physical awkwardness where she initially extended her hand for a standard professional handshake but was instead drawn into a full, prolonged physical hug before being positioned to pose for a series of flashing paparazzi cameras. The public release of this specific interaction immediately provoked an explosive, highly public reaction from the internationally acclaimed London-born recording artist Skepta. The 43-year-old musician, whose full legal name is Joseph Olayitan Adenuga Jr., was so deeply disturbed by the footage that he took to his official account on X, formerly known as Twitter, to unleash a relentless series of sharp, public condemnations aimed directly at the environment surrounding the child. Skepta openly declared that the entire scenario was profoundly inappropriate, arguing that a minor of her age should never be permitted to mingle freely with crowds of adult strangers at high-profile corporate fashion events without strict, immediate parental guardianship. His initial posts resonated instantly across the internet, breaking through the standard compliance of the entertainment industry and forcing millions of regular observers to look past the glamour of Paris Fashion Week to examine the stark, potentially hazardous reality of a young girl being utilized as a prop within a hyper-mature, highly commercialized adult environment. The public intervention of an established industry veteran like Skepta brought a completely new level of gravity to the unfolding controversy, moving the discussion far beyond the typical realm of casual internet gossip. Writing with a raw, unfiltered intensity on his social media platform, the prominent musical artist expressed his deep frustration by utilizing the traditional phrase abbreviation KMT, which stands for kissing one's teeth, a cultural expression signifying absolute disdain, anger, and profound disapproval. He explicitly stated to his millions of followers that while he historically makes a conscious effort to stay completely out of other people's personal business, the sight of grown men and complete strangers aggressively trying to use a young child like North West for their own social capital and media visibility made him physically sick. When a user on the platform attempted to downplay the interaction by asking if hugging had suddenly become a social offense, Skepta fired back immediately, pointing out that a blind man could clearly see from the child's explicit body language that she was not looking for a hug from anyone in that space. The artist continued his passionate online defense by emphasizing the absolute clarity of the situati stating that because she is a 13-year-old minor who had clearly put her hand out for a standard professional handshake, ignoring that clear boundary was entirely unacceptable. As the online discussion intensified, another commentator noted with a sense of sadness that the eldest daughter of the famous family had essentially been forced to skip being a traditional teenager altogether due to the overwhelming nature of her parents' global fame, prompting Skepta to issue a final urgent warning to the public, demanding that parents protect their children at all costs. He lamented that modern schools spend vast amounts of time teaching young people standard academic subjects like French, German, and English, when in reality, the most critical language that adult society desperately needs to learn is the fundamental interpretation of basic human body language. For Skepta, the complete failure of the adults in that room to respect the clear physical signals of a minor represented a sickening disconnect in what should be considered appropriate, safe behavior in civilized society. This sharp, high-profile critique from within the music industry resonated deeply with regular observers, sparking a massive, highly analytical conversation on prominent pop culture forums like Reddit, where thousands of users gathered to share their own perspectives on the exchange. The overwhelming consensus among these digital communities was one of strong agreement with Skepta's protective instincts, with many users expressing profound alarm over the apparent lack of parental boundaries surrounding the young teenager. One prominent commentator remarked that when a completely unrelated, uninvolved industry stranger exhibits far more common sense, genuine care, and protective instinct for a minor than the child's own biological parents, it indicates that something is fundamentally broken within that family dynamic. Another individual echoed this sentiment by placing the blame squarely on the adult professionals operating within the fashion world, stating that shame should be brought upon these grown men for crossing very obvious physical boundaries with a 13-year-old child. Regardless of how incredibly famous or wealthy her parents might be, for many longtime critics of the family's media empire, it was incredibly refreshing to see a respected, independent figure from deep within the entertainment industry finally call out these patterns of behavior in a public forum. Users expressed that they were utterly appalled by what the parents were actively allowing their daughter to be exposed to at such a tender age without a single parent or legal guardian present to physically protect her from the aggressive nature of the paparazzi and industry networking. The online community took great comfort in the fact that an influential man had chosen to speak up, referencing the broader social concept that being a good person does not simply mean refraining from bad actions yourself, but actively standing up to protect young women and children when you visibly see them being mistreated or placed in compromised positions by the adults around them. This collective public outcry highlighted a growing societal exhaustion with the way Hollywood youth are continuously commodified, signaling a demand for a return to basic protective standards for minors thrust into global stardom. To truly understand how a 13-year-old arrived at the center of such a high-stakes, hyper-mature environment, one must examine the rapid, highly ambitious trajectory of her emerging career in the entertainment industry, which has been systematically built upon a foundation of massive public events and professional releases. This young artist, who grows up alongside her younger siblings Saint, Psalm, and Chicago, has been consistently guided toward the bright lights of show business by both of her parents, who have repeatedly expressed their absolute, unwavering support for her artistic aspirations. Just last month, she officially launched her very first formal musical release, an extended play record titled Enor Earth Forever, which was instantly pushed to the masses through the family's unparalleled digital distribution networks. This musical debut was not a sudden, spontaneous development, but rather the culmination of years of carefully staged public performances, including a highly publicized appearance more than 2 years ago in May 2024, when she performed in a prominent pair of massive celebratory concerts for The Lion King at the legendary Hollywood Bowl. This extensive history of professional exposure reveals that her transition into the adult worlds of high fashion and professiona, touring is part of a deliberate, long-term strategy to establish her as a dominant cultural force for the next generation. However, as her style continues to evolve into increasingly dark, gothic, and rebellious territories, and as her professional calendar expands to include grueling 14-date national tours alongside 21-year-old rap artists, the tension between her status as a developing child and her role as a commercial entity will only continue to intensify. The global public remains deeply divided over this unprecedented experiment in modern upbringing, with some praising her fierce independence and avant-garde creativity, while many others remain deeply fearful of the long-term psychological consequences of a childhood completely stripped of anonymity, privacy, and traditional protection. Ultimately, this ongoing narrative serves as a powerful cautionary case study for the digital age, forcing the world to confront the true human cost of building a multi-million-dollar entertainment career before an individual has even reached the threshold of standard adulthood.